Good morning, people of the internet. You're listening to Debi Radio 79.5 FM, a podcast where we discuss the movie Grosse Pointe Blank 1 minute at a time. I'm your co-host, Hugh David.
And I am your other co-host, Dev Sodiga. And on today's show, we're going to be looking at minute 58 of the film.
So, joining us today, as he has been all this week and will be for the rest of the week, is Kosmas. Kosmas, my dear friend, how are you?
I'm great. I still have a cold, but maybe that makes my voice sound better. Or not, I'm not sure. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's great to have another super movie fan on the podcast. We've had all sorts of people on our podcast, haven't we, Dev? All kinds of people, all kinds of interests, all kinds of tastes. But it's great to be able to talk to you with a certain shorthand about cinema, because you know film really, really well. You've watched so many films, and you and I met through a film festival.
Fright Fest, if we're allowed to say it. I'm not sure.
We are.
Yes, and then we also had this great experience with Wolf Warrior, if you remember, which will remain as one of the best.
That was a great time.
Yes,
it was a great outing, wasn't it? Yeah, because it's that joy of going to, which is an increasingly, it's not, because less people are going to the cinema post-COVID, and also the younger generations are less interested in it. Not everyone realizes the joy of going to the cinema with a person who you're just getting to know as a friend, sitting down and discovering you laugh at the same things, you cheer at the same things, you're in sync through the film. I mean, like Grosse Pointe Blank. I mean, this is what you were saying, Dev, on one of our other episodes. This is your litmus test. If somebody likes this, this is like Quentin Tarantino in the 90s when he was asked about a Rio Bravo. If I'm getting serious with a girl, I show her a Rio Bravo, and she better fucking like it. It's that, right? It's this is yours, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's required. You need to have.
Yay!
No, there we go. For those of you not watching along on YouTube, you should be, but also Kosmas actually has Rio Bravo right to hand and held it up on screen.
Nice.
It's not even planned. But yeah, there we go.
Nice.
But yeah, it's one of those things that you want to see if there's a good alignment there, right? And sometimes you can disagree about a film, but you want to know, appreciate where the disagreement stems from, right? That's the other thing.
Right, and I think this is an interesting test of our friendship, this podcast.
This and many other things that I've subjected you to over the years.
Oh, no. There's nothing you've subjected me to ever before that's quite like this. And you asked me to do it, and I refused to do it for several months. I think I might have told you, Cosmos, last year. Dev asked me before last summer to do this podcast, and I said no. And I said no and no and no, because I stopped podcasting. I didn't want a podcast, right? And I think what changed my mind was, first of all, the film in question. I realized nobody out there. We've since subsequently found a podcast that was about it, which stopped. But it's not a film people talk about a lot anymore. It's not a film that's easy to see anymore. It was on Disney Plus for a while, and now that seems to have gone as well. There's a basic Blu-ray of it that's not a very good quality master. There's the old DVD. It's starting to drop out of the modern cinematic consciousness, right? Like if something's not on streaming, people don't know about it these days. And so I thought talking about it would be a good way to kind of keep the flame burning for a little bit. And I also wanted to know why Dev loved it so much. And now I do.
Because you can go through it minute by minute and still not hate it.
Yeah.
You mean love it more?
Aye, see, he gets it.
There we go. Yeah.
And there you go, Cosmos. That's why you and I are friends, man. So, this minute here, we are now into minute 58. We are still on the Debbie Martin conversation in what was her teenage bedroom, where she's living in now after having lost her apartment in A Devil's Night, that strange Detroit precursor to The Purge. And she has gone. We've had a real moment of crackling chemistry between the two actors, having just goofed around doing The Airplane, which is something they obviously did when they were younger. as a way of, it's one of those things that you can see being a game you play to have a bit of physical contact without actually getting into full on romantic clinches. And then as you get older, it will turn into that. But now that they're both standing up again, Minnie Driver's performance is just remarkable. She just goes through all these emotions so quickly. She's got that slight dizziness you have when you've been lifted up in the air, right, and held up, and she's come down to the earth. She's got the giddiness of the emotion and the nostalgia that she's feeling. There's the sexual tension as well, which, as we now know from behind the scenes, is genuine between these two. And then there's that moment where she suddenly, as Debbie, needs to reclaim her power, her stance, her agency, and says to Martin, right, now that they've agreed that they're going to the dance together, she's like, you can go now.
Yeah. And Martin wants to test that, right? Martin's not quite sure whether he can push those boundaries still. I thought I'd stick around. We could watch CNN, Crossfire. And
something romantic.
Yeah, absolutely, right?
It, right?
Well, also, kind of playing at that adulting thing, and I think it plays into the kind of when we see Martin reading Time magazine as well, right? Like he doesn't have that kind of more casual entertainment mindset, right? Like he's much more like Debbie's father in that way, right? Like
military industrial complex people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like Crossfire, I've never ever seen Crossfire, and even I know what Crossfire actually is as an American TV program, in terms of being current affairs and semi-artificial debate between
it's kind of like
views.
Question Time in the UK, or
that's it.
I have no idea what a German equivalent would be, because I see Kosmas looking quite confused on camera.
Yeah,
so
it's like a kind of
current affairs TV show in which you'll have a host and you'll have people from different political sides of the spectrum debating something current that day or that week in the news.
Yeah,
and it's got that kind of debate against the clock kind of vibe to it. So it's back and forth.
I've seen that on CNN, like YouTube clips, but I have no idea what the equivalent in Germany would be. I do not watch TV, I have to admit. Like,
really?
Over 10 years, yeah. I mean,
wow.
I either I have the Blu-rays or whatever, so I'm gonna watch, or I'm going to watch things on YouTube, late night shows. I might watch soccer on TV. That's or football. We're not America, but I'm not sure. Yeah, you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
okay, interesting. So you've got that habit that a lot of us over here have as well, which is where we've gotten to the point where we don't even watch our own country's TV. We watch American late night TV on YouTube, right? Yeah. I mean, we watch. Yeah, my partner and I, we watch The Daily Show. I find myself flitting through, the late night guys, Jimmy, the Kimmels, and the Jimmys, and Stephen and the rest on of a morning. The day after here. It is weird, isn't it? How we've all kind of gravitated towards this other set of TV.
Is it weird, though? I mean, when we grow up and we obsess so much over Hollywood's output, is it weird that we then start shifting our viewing habits into American culture as well?
I think it's not so weird now, but considering I've now realized that between torrenting and then now legit access through YouTube, I've probably been doing this nearly 20 years now. Yep. It's kind of slightly freaky.
I mean, it even before torrenting or streaming online became the norm, with cable, with Sky and Virgin Media and all of those.
Sky experimented several times, didn't they, with bringing over American late night?
Yeah, and
it never took off.
The first time I watched The Daily Show was through Virgin Media, right? Like, that was 15 years ago now.
Yeah, and that was before Comedy Central. Was that when Comedy Central picked it up here? Comedy Central UK picked it up.
No, I don't think it was on Comedy Central. I think
because they ended up with it for a while.
Yeah.
It's moved around a bit at the moment. So, but with YouTube, it's basically kind of there's no point to a British channel buying it because everyone can just watch it now. Which is kind of interesting. But yeah, she says you're right. This is very much Martin kind of, as you say, it's him. It's that kind of slightly grown up thing. But also what I like is her response to something when he says something romantic and she goes, no, airplane was quite enough. Like, you've held me enough for today.
Yeah.
Is that the reason why he then just touches her finger? Because that's almost weird. Like, not something adults would do, right? I mean, you either would hug her or I don't know, like, like.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kosmas. I think it's that weird kind of, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to shake your finger because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the awkward, like, half wave that you kind of give people at times. And
yeah.
So although this is just after she said you're an effing psycho.
Which apparently is a Dr. Strangelove nod. Not her saying it, but his response. Apparently his response is saying,
don't rush to judgment on something like that until all the facts are in.
Apparently that's a reaction to the same comment that someone makes in Strangelove, which I love. I think that's hysterical because that just literally nails exactly what is weirdly off-kilter about Martin. Yes. Martin is that part of the military-industrial complex. He's the dodgy guy who's like, you kind of need to weigh all the options. Like, no, dude, she's got your number.
And of course, if John Cusack's going to quote anybody, it's going to be Peter Sellers, right? Like,
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
It would almost would have been funny if they would do another line, but like twist it a bit. Like, there's no love in the bedroom. Like there's no fighting in the war.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been quite funny. That would have been really good. Yeah. Man, Kosmas, you're on fire today. That's good. Yeah, I like that. There's no love in the bedroom. But yeah, it is a very weird exit. The kind of semi-discomfort and I also like the fact that she tries to stay back physically, right? And because he simply won't leave, there's a point where she just is like lunges forward, and instead of like waiting and trying to grab her for a kiss or a clinch, he just is like, "Whoa, I'm out the door!" It's so funny.
And then as soon as he's gone, she's skipping back to the bed.
Exactly. The contrast is amazing
because she won, right? Like this interaction went exactly the way she wanted it to. She nailed every
except for one bit. She didn't find out what he's been doing for 10 years.
But I don't think you're right. But she's definitely not thinking of that right now. But
not at this point. No, she's high on the feelings. Yeah.
And also all the teasing and poking. I mean, she was talking about the psychos who might be out there, the killing door and all that. Yeah. I mean, that's
a bunch of undesirables. Yeah.
So
absolutely, that's a good point. Not considering that there are.
Oh yeah. And because we see them in the next scene.
Exactly. Cut to the next scene. And
everyone's favorite comic relief in this show.
Yep.
Steve and Kenneth.
Yes, indeed.
Stephen Lardner and Kenneth McCullers are.
And was the thing also in the what they're doing in the car? Was it also in the script? Because you guys told me that you read the script.
Oh, okay.
Like
the early draft.
The what are you calling that? Yeah, teeth brushing. Was that in the original script?
I'm not actually sure.
I'm just going to pull it up now. I am not. It's weird what is and isn't in these drafts, right? Like some of the dialogue is right there. Some of the what we would call stage directions in theater, some of the other stuff is not. And quite often you realize how much has been added by actors improvising or just getting into character and pulling out a certain set of kind of like we all know what a stakeout looks like in TV and film, and so there's kind of that sense of it. I'm just scrolling through the pages now.
I mean, it just tells us that they don't have a room. They sleep in the car. They do everything in the car. So yeah, I was just wondering if it's an ad lib or if they just had it in the script.
Well, the thing is, previously when we saw their car when they were outside the radio station, the front of the dash is full of food wrappers, papers, drink cartons, and so there's a sense already of that sense of stakeout, of not having a motel, not having a hotel to go to, unlike Martin, who's got somewhere to go to. These guys are just living out of the car. So it's kind of like a continuation of that. It's emphasizing it even further. It's not just that they were eating and drinking in the car; they're sleeping in the car. God knows what else they're doing in the car. And it also kind of draws an interesting line under the differences between Grosse and Martin as independent contractors who can afford hotels and rental cars and going out for food, and these guys who have to eat takeout and snack and smoke and drink and live in the car. This is the difference between the and shave, right? This is the difference between the government the guys on the government wage and the guys who are independent people with a private business making money.
I guess I could get in a car.
Yeah.
Just to shake.
The interaction broadly is in the script that we have, although it doesn't call out that he's brushing his teeth and the other one's shaving. I do think that's a phenomenal touch, but that concept of I wish he'd do his job already so we could do our job, or is in there, right? Like, I mean, it's such an odd phrasing, right? Because they're literally expressing the unwritten rule of being a good guy in movies, right? Like you don't make the first move. You're the one that reacts to protect or to get revenge or something like that. But they're not the good guys in this as far as the audience is. So they're playing on that trope so clearly, right? Like, and by saying I kind of want to just be doing his job so that I can then also kill him and we can move on with our lives, it's twisting that sentiment of being the hero characters, of being the good guys to becoming the bad guys. And it feels like the fact that they just have that thought is enough to reinforce that they're the bad guys in this situation, which is so counterintuitive when the protagonist is actually the one that's meant to be killing this guy. And we'll find out whether that happens or not in a few weeks when we get to those minutes. But
in the next minute, that conversation that you're talking about, it was going to carry on, and they're going to make literal that subtext you were just describing. And I love it because I think this is one of the other things about the film that's interesting, is that for a movie that revels in bringing stylized Hong Kong style gun action into America, into American film, but also enjoys more traditional American kind of styles and pleasures. I love the debate that goes on about guns, gun violence, gun usage, right? Like, it's not in your face, but it aligns with Cusack's politics that we know since then. There's a sense of these two guys are practically a parody of the good guy with a gun argument.
Yep.
Right? Because they're doing what we've seen cops and corrupt agents do for decades in in true crime as well as in fiction, which is you sit there and you let the bad guy do the bad thing, because then you've got a crime that you can arrest them for. You don't actually want them to stop them before they do a bad thing. You want to let them do the bad thing, which is really twisted when you think about it.
Yeah, especially their logic, because they say we can only do it after he kills it. It's not like it would be his first kill. He killed people before, so it's not like they give him the benefit of the doubt because he already did bad things. So that argument doesn't hold either.
They could have spent this time keeping an eye on the target and being there to preemptively, when Martin makes the move, preemptively take him out. But no, they want that whole thing to play out before they do anything.
Yeah, and in that sense, there's a certain justification of an argument that Martin will make at the very end of the film about how he justifies or rationalizes what he does for a living, and the idea that if the jobs he takes, up at this point in the film, we have seen him turn down jobs. You know, he has a line in the sand, and it's very much a theme of 90s hitman films, right? You know, in Leon, right? It's no women, no kids, right? There's rules.
Yeah.
All of these guys have rules. There's people you don't kill, and you don't aim for casualties. You don't aim for, again, you know, like Mission Impossible 2, right? Yeah, you know, when Cruise is talking about the other agent, and he's like, yeah, he likes to leave a lot of hats on the ground, right? It's this idea that casualties are acceptable, but also collateral damage is acceptable, which in reality, in the press, in what we're seeing in the real world in 97, people are rapidly becoming aware is actually how it works. But here now in this little movie, there's a chance for Cusack to express that idea, and it's expressed through the script in these subtle ways of these guys who do these jobs, and the way they talk casually about things that actually are quite serious and have serious repercussions.
This was minute 58 of the Grosse Pointe Blank podcast, Debi Radio 79.5 FM, featuring your host, co-writers, and co-producers, myself, Dev Sodiger, and Hugh David.
Today's guest, and all this week, is film reviewer par excellence, Kosmas. Kosmas, where can people find you online if they want to come and talk to you?
On X and Instagram would be the best places. I'm also on Facebook.
Fantastic. You can find us as well in the same places, funnily enough. All good podcast players, including wherever you're listening to us. If you want to actually see us, come and see us on YouTube. We're also on X and Spotify, and in all of those places, you can use the handle Debi Radio, DEBI Radio, which is also the name of our website, debiradio.com. Once more, it's DEBI Radio.
And if you want to talk with us about this movie or movies in general, you can join us on our Facebook listeners group, which is Debi Radio 79.5 FM Fan Club.
Sure was clear that all of this was new. Concentrating hard like a little girl, smoking for the first time. It wasn't a moment, it was a feeling.